Do you think that they're looking at these ideas as presented and finding genuine fault with them? Or are they perhaps inventing strawman versions of CRT to avoid truths that make them uncomfortable with their place in the world? Or
How can
perhaps...
How can he dare make the claim that people are strawmanning critical race theory when he doesn't even know what critical race theory is and is not looking into it?
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's funny how he characterizes everything as they have another narrative on the left that white people are scared of losing their place in the hierarchy. That's what everyone is afraid of. And I don't see that. Like I want everyone to be able to succeed based on their merit. I mean, that's the conservatives that are worried about people succeeding without doing anything. Yeah, that's a problem. But they're not worried about people succeeding on their own merit.
The opinionated one for $5 says, it was likely me, Adam, who commented about Plymouth. Jamestown, Virginia was the first English colony as well as the longest running. Puritans blown the fuck out.
Jamestown, yes, exactly. Jamestown almost ended up getting wiped out a couple times. And they've one of the leaders of Jamestown, I only remember this because it's so cool. Like, he basically took the reins of power and said, listen, we're going to fucking die if we don't get our shit together. And so he wrote back to England and said, stop sending us goldsmiths. They're fucking useless. There's no gold here. We need farmers. We need people who can work the land. We need, people who know animals. What do they call them? Animal husbandry people.
So Jamestown was the first permanent settlement in America in 1607, and Plymouth Rock was the disembarkment site for the Mayflower Pilgrims in 1620.
Right,
So
but
you're both sort of right. But
I wonder if they all got wiped out, the Mayflower people. No, some of them had to make it, right?
You mean the
Mayflower people? It's our history. We don't even know.
So yeah, so I didn't realize the Lost Colony in Roanoke was before this. It was in 1585. So that's interesting.
My granddad came over from Ireland, so I'm like, I guess technically
I don't know any of this
third generation. Yeah, exactly. My parents didn't come over on the Mayflower.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
We're a nation of immigrants. My granddad joined.
Derek Drummond for $5 says 2024, the U.S. annexes Canada. 2032, the U.S. annexes Mars. 2040, the U.S. annexes the Milky Way. It's the natural progress of humanity.
Oh, man, when we have a colony on Mars, that's funny, too. When you're not allowed to say colonize Mars anymore.
I agree.
They're fighting for the bacteria on Mars.
I know. I saw that.
some sort of financial risk to them. That's what I'd like you to do, but you're not going.
If Trump is president, if Trump is reelected and we get to Mars, he's going to call it the Martian colony.
Right.
No matter which.
He said conservatives are fighting against this because they're racist and because it hurts their financial incentive to help black people.
I don't get that.
Perhaps inventing strawman versions of CRT to avoid truths that make them uncomfortable with their place in the world, or perhaps pose some sort of financial risk to them. That's what
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. But he's just talking about because conservatives generally want less social welfare programs. Is that what he's suggesting? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. What is my place in the world? I don't necessarily know. Like I'm focused I'm focused on me.
Yeah, well, it'd be helpful if he actually, said things and arguments, right?
I mean, I'm not a Supreme Court justice or anything. I mean, I would call myself a nobody. So,
really, Trump didn't put you on the short list to be the next Supreme Court justice pick?
No, unfortunately.
What a bigot.
Yeah.
I'd like you to do, but you're not gonna. No matter which side of the question you land on, you're locked in. You're already leaving your comment. I'm just yelling into the yawning void where our curiosity used to be.
So that's true, but
yeah,
that is interesting. That's true, but he uses this as an excuse to not research critical race theory. He's like, well, since everyone's made up their mind on the subject, I shouldn't have to actually find out what is true.
Yeah.
Which ironically is sort of actually critical race theory's position, because they don't really believe objective truth can be found or matters. They believe that narratives and personal experiences matter more than objective truth. So I guess in a way, he's actually embodying critical race theory right now.
Doesn't even know it. Oh, the irony. It's like irony inside of irony.
I'm going to try to explain what critical race theory is to the best of my ability, but keep in mind, I'm a layperson who's going to do most of my research on Wikipedia and YouTube videos. Normally, I'd try to be a little more thorough, but it doesn't actually matter for our purposes what critical race theory is, but rather what people are pretending it is.
Okay.
And that's...
So this is insane. So
Did he just say I'm
admitting-
lazy? He's like,
Yeah,
I'm lazy.
just say I'm lazy. Just say I'm lazy
But
and I want views on YouTube.
I don't like the fact that he tied it to race, though, because he's like, I'm white and lazy. Like, fuck you, dude. What the
Oh, did he
fuck?
say that? I didn't hear that part.
Well, he basically said, I'm white, and I'm just going to, do the bare minimum possible. That's the argument he just made.
I think he means not that white people are inherently lazy, just that, like, since he's white, he can't
Well, some of us
possibly
are.
understand, critical race theory, because that's, beyond the understanding of the whites.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
the thing that's so crazy about this is that he's just admitted, again, this is a YouTube video. He doesn't, I don't know what's going on in his life. I'm assuming he doesn't have some contract with a demon that says he has to produce a YouTube video, every week or he loses his soul. Like he could have
You
spent,
don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. But, he could have spent time to actually fucking read some critical race theory. All the stuff I found about
Oh,
critical
my
race theory.
God. Oh, God. It's so painful.
And it's so funny because it's so simple. I went to Wikipedia. I said, okay, who are the people that are credited with founding critical race theory? You see like the first 5 names. You look at those names. You can find all their literature, or most of their literature, on the internet for free if you know where to look, which I did.
Mhm.
And I just started reading it. And obviously, I didn't finish it all. That's thousands of pages. But you can read specific chapters. You can read all their introductory chapters where they say what critical race theory is. You can start to look into specific points of things that interest you. And it took me, I don't know, it took me like a day to do that.
Mhm.
I did this on Saturday before the debate with Serfs. Okay, so I spent one day looking into all this shit, and I didn't make a video on this. This was just because I wanted to have background information.
Yeah, you're
And
interested.
this fucking guy is over here. He's making a whole fucking video, and he's like, I'm gonna read some Wikipedia articles, and I'm gonna watch a YouTube video, and then I'm gonna just say, oh well, I'm done. That's it. And he says, this is why it's just insane. He says it doesn't matter in terms of, wait, let me go back to what he exactly said.
I'm a layperson who's going to do most of my research on Wikipedia and YouTube videos. Normally, I try
Wikipedia exclusively for white people.
Yeah, right.
Just so you guys know. I mean, it probably says Black Lives Matter all over the website.
to be a little
but-
more thorough, but it doesn't actually matter for our purposes what critical race theory is, but rather what people are pretending it is.
Okay, so he just said, for the purpose of the video, it doesn't matter what critical race theory is, because he wants to debunk what other people are claiming it is. Is he is this the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your life? How can you claim that other people are wrong about what something is if you admit that you don't know what the fuck the thing is either?
I have actually made this argument, the same exact argument that I did. I made it with Marxism. I made it with Marx. The difference is I feel like I know Marxism better than most of the people advocating for Marxism. Well, no, hold on. It's different though, because he's saying I don't know anything about critical race theory. In my video I was saying I know a lot about Marxism, and every time I try to use that knowledge that I know about Marxism, it's ultimately futile because the person I'm arguing with has a completely different interpretation of Marxism. So I have to end up arguing against that interpretation that they have, which is not my interpretation. So I just wasted my time. Actually, they have an interpretation of Marxism that I can't even fathom. I don't know how you could read Marx and interpret it that way.
Yeah, that's definitely fair that individual asshole you talk to on the internet has an individual asshole
Sure,
opinion
totally.
about Marxism. That's very different.
So he
But yeah, with
wants
this,
to... Go ahead.
but with this, it doesn't. That's not applicable because he's claiming that all these people are saying critical race theory is an existential threat, and they're full of shit, and they're actually
Yeah.
dog whistling
Totally.
racism.
Totally.
Except he's too fucking lazy to actually look into it and see critical race theory is literally an existential threat to American liberal democracy, and it doesn't pretend like it's not. So,
Yeah. So you have
You
to
know.
believe, you have to believe that critical race theory is something that advocates for equal rights for people of color, and that anyone who's against that is against equal rights for people of color, when that's not remotely what critical race theory is about. Critical race
Right,
theory
that's
is about,
right.
yeah, it's about power dynamics. It's basically repackaged Marxism.
Well, it's critical race theory. It's exactly the same as P plus P equals R and all this other shit that started in the late 70s, early 80s, where you had a bunch of civil rights minded people who looked around and said, okay, so we had all the civil rights legislation in the 60s, and it's been a whole 15 years, and everything in the country isn't fixed yet. So therefore, I guess doing things through normal legal procedures sucks because it hasn't fixed all the problems in 15 and 20 years yet. And so they concoct this whole new solution, this whole new theory to explain why you need to circumvent the law in order to, promote equality.
Right. So also critical race theory, and I want your opinion on this, obviously.
No,
it's like
it.
Critical race theory is zero sum, right? It's a zero sum interpretation of the world. Like blacks cannot succeed if whites succeed. Like zero sum and non-zero sum. Do you want to explain the difference?
I don't know if it's zero sum. I don't know yet. I haven't done enough research in it to see if it's completely zero sum in terms of there can only be one.
Zero sum. It sounds zero sum.
Highlander.
It sounds
sort of
zero
is.
sum. Yeah.
Right.
Well, if they're saying white people never, like, white people are going to take all the stuff, that assumes that there's a limited amount of stuff.
Well, wait a minute. So the reason I would say maybe it's not zero sum is because they're saying under our current liberal democracy framework, white people will take all the shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since maybe they're saying, well, under communism, true equality, could be achieved. I don't know. So.
Just the zero sum is a zero sum game is where there's only like everyone's gain comes at someone else's loss. It comes at another player's loss. A non-zero sum game is where if we cooperate, we can both win. All players can win in a non-zero sum
chess
game.
Is a zero sum game. There's a one winner and one loser.
Exactly.
Assuming it's not a tie, obviously. But
yes. Live streaming is a non-zero sum game.
Right.
And it sucks that this discussion will take this turn, because there's really nothing about critical race theory that warrants the vitriolic reaction it gets.
That I don't know, because I haven't bothered to do a fucking ounce of research on the topic. But I'm just going to pretend like what I say has valid meaning or merit.
If we could just ask him, hey, are you in favor of a colorblind society, or do you think that's racist? Don't you think?
You'd probably say no.
He's not in favor of a colorblind society.
I feel like Thought Slime is more up on the woke literature than Lance is, that he would be smart enough to understand that his position, maybe not smart enough, maybe
has to be against a colorblind society.
Maybe learn enough to understand that he can't actually say he's in favor of a colorblind society.
But
I would assume, maybe I'm wrong.
What is the word that you can say? Because I feel like it's just a language game. Like they just want you to say, like, now colorblind societies. What does everybody say? How do we make that racist? That's kind of the game we're playing here.
A society of racial equity or something.
Okay, exactly. So we'd have to ask if he's in favor of that.
Yeah, we'd have to ask if he's in favor of colorblind society, and then he would probably say no, he believes in some form of racial equity. Because and it's so funny because literally one of the founding principles of critical race theory is that colorblind society is a right-wing dog whistle used to prevent Black people from achieving true equality with white people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what critical race theory says. It says colorblind society is just a dog whistle. It's not.
Right.
Not only does it not exist, but it can never exist.
Yeah, well, they think it's just lip service, basically.
Yes.